In this third part of the review, I'm going to be talking about matchmaking and custom games in Halo 3. Halo 3 acts very similar to Halo 2. Just like in Halo 2, you can gather a bunch of people in a pre-game lobby, pick a playlist of your choice, and find other people who want to play the same thing. Matchmaking remains relatively unchanged from Halo 2, and it still works in a very similar way, but there have been a few improvements to the system. You can now change your search preferences, so for example you can search by prioritizing a good connection, preferring close skill range, or by preferring people who speak your own language. You also now have the option to veto a map and game type. Instead of being stuck with what you're given like in Halo 2, you can now vote to skip a map and game type. If more than half the people in the game don't want to play what appears, then the game will choose a different map and game mode. For example, you could get territories on standoff, veto, and then end up with one bomb on the pit or something. This is all fine and well, but the system could be a lot more efficient. The matchmaking system loads the map and then begins the vetoing process. It's a bit of a waste of time waiting for a map to load, only to have people vote to skip it. It would be nice if you could veto the game type and map separately. It sucks if you get a game type that you hate on a map that you like, and you have to veto to skip both of them. Another problem is with downloadable content. Since its release, Halo 3 has had numerous map packs released for its multiplayer. Fair enough, map packs are a great way to keep a multiplayer a fresh experience. The problem is that these map packs are pretty much required to have a decent online experience, and this involves forking out an extra £11 or so. What happens if you don't like the map? By far my biggest gripe with the matchmaking system is how it pairs players up. The whole point of matchmaking is to match players with other players for of a similar skill level, but I simply don't see any evidence of this anywhere. How is it fair that a team full of people who don't know each other get matched against a full party of 8 people? I don't mind losing, but when I start a game with no hope of winning whatsoever, that's when the game stops being fun. The matchmaking playlists are usually updated once a month to make some tweaks to the maps or game types that are in them, and every weekend there's a double EXP weekend that usually contains some game types that you won't see in conventional playlists. So it's good to see that Bungie tries to keep things fresh and interesting by tweaking the playlists a little bit. Custom games really go hand in hand with Forge, which I'll talk about in a different part of the review. In custom games you can play pretty much whatever you want to. You can play a game of Infection, or you can play a game of Capture the Flag with your friends. It's very similar to Halo 2 in this regard. The custom game options have been greatly expanded in Halo 3 though, and trust me when I say that there's a wealth of options to choose from here. You can adjust the player speed, you can change the gravity options so that players jump higher, you can override the colour of people's armour. You would be amazed at some of the stuff that some people come up with these options. Unfortunately, there's no custom games browser, which means that you can only join custom games that your friends are playing. I would have really liked to see a server list of sorts showing the different custom games that people are playing, because sometimes you just want to play something that matchmaking doesn't provide. Halo 3 ships with 11 maps, with a further 4 maps that can be downloaded for free. There's also an extra 6 maps on top of this, but they cost money. In this review though, I'm only going to be focusing on the maps that either come on the disc or can be downloaded free of charge. Like in Halo 2, there's a variety of sizes with the maps. Some of them are large and well suited for big games with 16 players, and there are other maps that are more suited for smaller games with 8 players. Although Halo 3 boasts an impressive number of maps, I can't help but feel that the maps in Halo 2 were better. Halo 2 had maps like Coagulation, Headlong and Waterworks, all of which were huge multiplayer levels. In Halo 3, everything feels like it's been scaled down. The weapon balance in Halo 3 has been greatly improved from Halo 2. Gone are the homing rocket launchers, over-effective plasma pistols, and ridiculous sword lunges. These weapons have all had modifications made to them. The rocket launcher has been replaced by the Spartan laser. Okay, the rocket launcher is still in the game, but its lock-on ability has been removed, and it's more often used as an anti-infantry weapon rather than an anti-vehicle weapon. The Spartan laser has a 3-second charge time and fires a laser that destroys most vehicles in one hit. While it's a huge leap forward from the homing rocket launcher, I still think that it's a bit too easy to use. Very rarely do people ever miss with it. The plasma pistol has been greatly toned down now, and the overcharged plasma bolts don't home in as much like they used to. In fact, trying to use the plasma pistol and battle rifle combination will probably end up with you dead. However, to compensate for this, the plasma pistol now has an EMP ability, and it disables vehicles from moving if you hit them with an overcharged plasma shot. Equipment also has a pretty large influence on the multiplayer side of things. While in campaign the equipment was a bit of a novelty, in the multiplayer the equipment can be used to create some interesting situations. You can throw a gravity lift down to fly to a walkway above you that we wouldn't have been able to get to normally, or you could be getting shot at, throw down a bubble shield and you're protected from the enemy's bullets so your shield can recharge. Suddenly the tide has turned and it's a level playing field, and an enemy who hoped to catch you off guard now has to come up with another way of killing you. My biggest complaint with the multiplayer has to be the respawning system. Okay, sure, there's not really any games that have nailed this perfectly, but when you respawn in front of an enemy warthog, there's something wrong, and horrible spawns can detract from what is otherwise an amazing multiplayer experience. Halo 3 introduces a new class of weapons, known as support weapons. These are weapons that, when you pick them up, put you into a third-person perspective and make you walk slower. However, these weapons are also usually very powerful, so when you pick these weapons up, you're basically sacrificing speed for power. Halo 3 also introduces two brand new grenade types. The spike grenade, which is a weapon that can stick to walls and enemies, and the firebomb. The spike grenade is certainly an interesting addition to the Halo franchise. It's pretty nifty running away from an enemy in close quarters, slapping one against the wall and using it to trap your pursuer. The firebomb, however, is almost a completely pointless addition to the game. It's hardly ever used in the campaign, and it never even makes an appearance in Halo 3's multiplayer unless you use Forge to put it on the map. Player customization in Halo 1 was basic. You simply had a colour to pick from and that was it. In Halo 2 this was expanded upon. You could play as a Spartan or an Elite, and you could also choose from primary and secondary colours. You also had an emblem that people online could identify you by. Halo 3 has all of this. You can still be a Spartan or an Elite, and you can still have an emblem and change your armour colours. The big difference in Halo 3 is that you can change your helmet, or you can change the shoulder pads that you're wearing, or your chest piece. These pieces of armour, or army permutations as they're known in the game, are unlocked with achievements. This is a good thing, as it gives you a real reason to unlock the achievements instead of just unlocking them for the sake of unlocking them. Having achievements give the player some kind of in-game reward is a great idea I'd like to see more games implement. Overall, Halo 3 has a very solid multiplayer. There are a few problems I can nitpick here and there, but overall it's probably one of the best multiplayer experiences out there on the Xbox 360 right now. You can tell that Bungie put a lot more effort into the multiplayer aspect of Halo 3 than they did with the game's campaign. I would have liked to have seen more remakes of maps in Halo 2, such as Headlong or Waterworks in Halo 3, but Halo 3 still presents a pretty solid lineup of multiplayer maps to play on. If you're after a great multiplayer experience, Halo 3 is probably the game to buy. Just keep in mind that there are some matchmaking restrictions on people who don't have some of the map packs, so maybe you should wait until Halo 3 ODST comes out, which comes with every single map pack ever made for Halo 3. That's it for this section of the review. Click on one of the annotations below to check out a different part of the review.